today's workshop is on the management of MPAs, and it's divided in two different sessions. We are having the update of the managed guidelines as part 1, and part 2 is the development of the methodology for management effectiveness and assessment, so MEA, and how to apply all of this. And the aim of the session is to get you, as the stakeholder, with your opinion and your views on these topics and the content and how we deal with them during the project, and to explore the differences and the things we agree in together. Different methods we use during the workshop are the group discussions, the mirror board, and Slido voting. And I'm very sorry, we will have to cut the discussions a little bit short now today. Some suggestion was already if we could go maybe into the lunch break a little bit to have the possibility to discuss everything, but I will try to speed it up also a little bit. The time schedule is now a little bit out of the window, as they say, but we will try to make it work still. And for the first part, I would now want to guide you to the mirror board usually, but I had prepared a little bit of introduction to all of us, but I think we will have to skip the introduction of this round now, unfortunately. So instead, I will jump directly to the management guidelines. So the last time HELCOM had management guidelines on MPA is almost 20 years ago. So they're a bit outdated, but they are a very valuable tool to aid the contracting parties to manage their MPAs well and effectively, and to foster a harmonized way to proceed with management practices. So we have here two main questions. The first question is, when making management plans for MPAs, what are the best tools for receiving information? And what are the best tools for engaging stakeholders in the planning process? So this first part of the question is about receiving information. So it's a little bit more of a passive process. And some tools you might know are webinars, some online presentations, physical event presentations or newsletters. And the second part of this question is about engaging you actively as stakeholders. So this is, for example, questionnaires, online workshop discussions, or in-person discussions. Some use also some participatory GIS for this. And here I would like to stop the presentation for a moment and give you some link to Slido here in the chat, so we can build a little bit of a word cloud here. So let's keep fingers crossed this will all work now. So I hope you can see now the link in the chat, and this is for the question where we would like the receiving information. What is your view on this? So the a bit more passive way, how would you like to be kept informed about what's going on in the project, for example? Is there maybe anything you've had good experiences with, or where you say, oh gosh, no, newsletters we had, but nobody reads them, we want some active webinars or anything else? So I can see participants are starting to type. That's very good. So the link is working to the session. That's a relief. Something technical worked at least today.
I'm sorry, where can I find the link?
Yes, so if you are in this window and seeing us as participants, on the right side of your screen, there you should have the little 3 little tabs. If you go to the event tab, there should be the link now. I can post it once more.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. Okay, and we have some answers so far. Some are for webinars, workshops, a digital platform. some background documents you want to read. And some participants are typing still. I'm going to give you like half a minute more to get some more answers. Okay, and from the results, it seems webinars are the most popular out of all the voted ways. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly with you so that you can see the answers flying in. So I hope this sharing works, and you can see we have like lots of answers about meetings, workshops, but webinars seems to take the race and be the winner in this. So thank you for voting. Then for the second part of this question here, it's basically the same question. Again, how would you like to be involved? But this time it's some active engagement in the project. So for this, I will share the link again in this chat window of our session and open it now. Okay, and I can see some of the first answers coming in-person meetings, interactive GIS, species ambassadors. Who wrote this answer? Would you like to explain a little bit what this is? Who wrote species ambassadors? Could you explain? Unfortunately, the person seems to have left. Okay, but it seems a couple of people are still typing. So to show you here some answers, it seems that meetings in general are the most favorite way to engage in the project. Okay, thank you very much. That's noted. Then I would like to guide you now for the second question to the Miro board, and I will post again a link into our chat window. So the Miro board comes here, and please go to the very top of the Miro board. There it should say Part 1 Management Guidelines. Please let me know if you have trouble finding this part on the board. So it's at the very top, Management Guidelines. There you should see it. And then the question is, what do you think should be the focus in the HELCOM MPA management guidelines? And here we have some sticky notes that you can use. There are some ideas written that were used in the previous management guidelines. So we have, for example, enforcement, setting conservation measures, setting conservation targets and objectives, and describing the conservation features. So these were all focal points of previous management guidelines. And I would invite you to take now some of the notes and write on it what you deem appropriate and put it into the suggestion part of this little box.
Excuse me, Jana, how can I access the Miro board?
Yes, in the chat of this session, do you see that? On the right side of your screen, there should be three tabs. In the event tab, if you click that one, then there's the option chat. And in there, you should be able to see it. Okay, very good. So I see we have now several people busy writing. very good. And if you want your suggestion or ideas to be discussed, please put them in this white space area to suggestions. Yes, like Marie-Louise is doing now, very good. Okay, we have some dealing with measures. Very good, very important. Once I see that the flow of typing of new ideas stops, we will discuss all of these suggestions and group them. So probably we will group a few of the ideas that deal with measures all together. So some of the people I can see, they are not in the management guidelines, but in the management effectiveness part of the Miro board. Please scroll more upwards. So if you zoom, for example, out of the Miro board, you can see that there are 3 different sections. In the middle, there was an introduction game. In the lower part of this map is the management effectiveness. We don't want to be there yet, so please go up above this Baltic Sea map to the management guidelines. It's the part 1. Yes, I see some people are making their way there. Very good. We still have Sarah. Yes, she's moving upwards, up. Very good. And Natasha Burson. I'm very sorry, I probably pronounced this name very wrong. But you're still in the management effectiveness. If you move upwards, yes. Up. Go higher, yes. Above the map, yes. Exactly, there. Very good. Now I think we have everyone in the right part of the Miro board. Okay, and I can see still some typing. Some errors being drawn, but I think this might have been a mistake, and I'm very sorry. I had originally the goal to get you a bit more familiar with Miro and not let you go at it without any instructions, but due to time we have to make more of the approach learning by doing at the moment, I fear. But I hope it's still okay and we will figure it out. I enlarge the white space a little bit so that it's less crowded for you guys to put your notes. Okay, I would say maybe 1 more minute for typing and then we try to discuss and group a little bit because we have still the whole management effectiveness ahead of us. Okay, I will start discuss a little bit already so we can keep it moving. I can see lots of people have written things that include measures, and they're indeed very important to set in the guidelines. So I think everybody would agree that they are important to include. I will start grouping them now on the other side of the board. So if you see anything with measures, conservation measures, including measures, and so on, please help move them to this part of the discussed board. Then someone wrote a big sticky note. I think it's very important that this project is not an abstract level, but actually deals with how to make a real difference in the MPAs. I think this is very true. It's important to keep in mind, but maybe not something to put in the guidelines. But we will leave it here as a point that was raised and discussed, and that this is important.
Yeah, that was me. I just wanted to make this statement early in the process.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so note taken, very important. I think we all agree on this. So we will keep it here on the side of the suggestions and discussions part. Another thing that people wrote is activities. So common efforts to regulate international activities, how to deal with activities that are different to regulate. So I will put this also now on the discussion board side. I think this is very true. Some of the activities can only be handled internationally, and fishing, shipping are exactly the 2 points being raised here. So this could be something to put in the management guidelines. Then some other notes we have is some collaboration aspect. Who wrote this? Did you also have something specific in mind, or do you mean also this this international need for dealing with activities, for example, or do you more need collaboration inside the project? If you're trying to say something, then we can't hear this. Okay.
Can I ask something else? Like the activities, and I agree the international activities is a good point to have, but it's a measure, isn't it? It's just sort of a specific undergrouping of measures having to regulate international activities.
That's a good point. So I would understand that activities are deemed so important they should be a separate part in the guidelines, or can someone of the people who wrote something about activities clarify a bit? There should be at least a couple of people who wrote something about activities. If you don't want to speak up, we will just keep it as a point for now with the suggestion to have it separate. But I agree with, I think Marie-Louise said that this might be part of the general measures. Then what else do we have? Setting common goals. Yes, always important, but maybe not something to have in the guidelines, because the common goals, the common approach will be in the guidelines on how to deal with measures, how to deal with activities, what are the species to be protected, and so on. Another discussion I see is include restoration ? Who wrote this one? Who suggested include restoration? Do we want this?
I didn't write it, but I would agree. I mean, part of management of MPAs can definitely be restoration.
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me now? It was me who wrote it. I'm responsible. My name is Lotta from Sweden. Yeah, it's a question mark afterwards, but it's an important question. I think we have to decide: shall it be included or not?
Yes.
I agree that there should be some section about it, and then the question is if it also needs like its whole own document. But it is very relevant in management of MPAs, so I think it's relevant.
Okay, very good. So today we don't need to decide on anything. It's just to collect your input and different opinions. So anything you raise here is of course very welcome.
You're using the event chat, not the workshop chat. Okay. So if you click the workshop, yes, now you can see.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yes.
Okay, I just received some more guidance for the technical part. Very good, but that's for the chat, so we will come back to this later. Does anyone still see something in the sticky notes in the suggestion part they want to discuss now urgently? And again, like it's not like if we don't discuss something now, we will still, from the management part session, we will still go through all of your suggestions after the workshop and take them into account, so nothing is lost. But if you want to discuss something here in the group or point something out, then I would, of course, invite you to raise your voice now, to ask something or share something with the group.
Sorry, I have a perhaps naive question, but for whom are these management guidelines?
It would be for the contracting parties. So the last management guidelines was also made by HELCOM 2006, and it was made as for the contracting parties with the aim to have some regional harmonization and what should be considered. And for now, it would also be the hope to update and have some regional approach and agreement.
So this is not for the general public or something like that?
Everything is, of course, accessible to the general public, and as part of the project, it will also go to sister projects, for example, but everything will be public output, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else who would like to raise something from the notes in the suggestion box? SSC define how a functional and representative network of MPA would look like, include connectivity. So yes, that's also very important.
Can you hear me?
Now we hear you, yes?
All right, thanks. I would like to point out that the collaboration issue is very important, and I wrote 2 notes on. Well, I would like to have some best practice examples for cross-sectoral collaboration in the guidelines, and also how to convince other administrative bodies other than the environmental agencies to get engaged and involved and to collaborate in MPA management. Mm-hmm. Because I think that usually the environmental sector cannot do the job by their own, but they need the others to work on the issue together with them.
Yes, very true. Thank you for this comment, Michael. Okay, then unfortunately we need to proceed. So I tried to copy some of the previous elements of the management guidelines together with some of your added votes into the Slido. So now I would like to share again this poll. And I was just corrected. If you go to the tabs on the right, don't go to event because that's the general chat. Please don't do as I do, but go now to the workshop chat. where I will post out the Slido. And this will ask now, what do you think should be the focus in the management guidelines? And you can vote for your top 3. That doesn't mean that other parts won't be included, but it might give us a little bit of a hint of what other things might still be important. So I invite you now to leave the Miro board for a moment, come back to this session, go to the right side of your screen to the workshop chat, and there's the link to Slido. And I see 2 participants have found their way. And you will see some different suggestions there, which you can vote for your personal top 3.
Can I ask because here it also has network of MPA and connectivity, which is also really important, but I would think that was more for a designation guideline than for a management guideline. But that may just be me that's thinking of it the wrong way.
Okay. Yes, it's a good point to take up. Any other views on this, or would someone like to add? You can see people, well, one person is still voting, but otherwise it seems the top 3 so far are setting conservation targets and objectives, and setting conservation measures and setting conservation measures is top number 2, and then enforcement number 3. So thank you for voting. I will leave it still open for a few more moments in case some still want to vote on this. But then I'm very sorry to cut this all so short from the discussion points, but I would move on then to the next point. So now we would go to the management effectiveness, and here I would quickly share once more the slides for discussion. So one moment. I hope it works now. So, can you see the screen again?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Now let's switch to the management effectiveness, and this deals with the question how well protected areas are protecting actually the values and achieving their goals and objectives. And that's about 3 main themes we deal with according to Hawkins et al. One is the design issue, second, the adequacy and appropriateness of management system and the processes, and then the last one, delivery of protected areas and objectives. So this is the general framework you see here for assessing management effectiveness of MPAs. If some of you are familiar with the previous action project, there you could see the similar framework. So the first one deals with the planning. So basically what needs to be managed and what should be aimed to achieve by the management. Then the management process, which deals with the adequate needs for the management to achieve the conservation goals. And then the third part is the conservation results. So delivery, outcomes and outputs, which deals with implementation of management measures and reaching the conservation goals. And for the part of this session, we will discuss again in Miro. We will group you into different sectors. So if you're an NGO or from research or ministries, for example, I will cut this part a bit short and we'll jump directly to the first question. So what are the necessary elements of management to be covered by management effectiveness assessment of MPA? And for this, we will discuss a list of elements and rank them by importance. And some example of these elements are, for example, to have quantitative aims of MPAs, or to have management plans, status of protected species, and so on. So here I would ask you again to jump to the Miro board, and now you can see we are here in the second part of the Miro board that deals with management effectiveness. So if you're not there, please move now downward to the second part, and I will stop sharing screen. Okay. So here we are now in the first question, and there were some examples posted already. So has the status of species improved? Someone moved it already to suggestions, and that's very good. You can take any of the sticky notes and write on it, or some of them have some pre-filled examples of elements that you might deem important. So quantitative aims of MPAs, or what is the status of conservation features? Again, some management measures, so you can choose any of this and put it in the suggestion board side, or write your own sticky note and put it there. We'll give you still a minute to write. If you already see that your suggestion matches some of the other suggestions, you can already group them together if you like. That would speed up our discussion later. Okay, while some people still write, I will already start to ask questions. Who wrote, has status of species improved? And would you agree that this should be one of our agreed group of elements?
That was me who wrote that.
Yeah.
And I think that, well, achievement towards conservation objectives is often difficult to assess, because the conservation objectives tend to be something like improve the accessibility of food, or improve the status of food webs, or something like that. Mm-hmm. But as for the state of species, we do have measures to assess how they are doing, and we can also do that on MPA level instead of regional level, for instance. And so that's something we actually can monitor, and that's something our measures should do, that they should improve something.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And if you feel this is definitely needed, please move it to the agreed group of elements. And if someone feels, oh no, this should definitely not be there, then please just raise your voice. So I can see this is twice there, so I will group them together on the other side of the board. Then something else that I see is again measures are again picked up quite often. So we have like other measures implemented, other measures to deal with all threats and pressures, are measures effective. So this is a whole group of sets. So I think we can agree that this is important. Would one of you who wrote this like to elaborate a little bit? Anyone?
I really think this is like most important part of assessment of management effectiveness. And I didn't write that one, but I believe it's really key that we need measures to deal with all threats and pressures, because you can have a wonderful management plan with 100 measures which all don't work because they don't address the key threats and pressures. So I'd say that's maybe the most important note that is on the board right now.
Okay, very good. I think since so many other people wrote about measures as well, there is no disagreement in this. If there is, please raise your voice. Otherwise, I will group everything with measures on the other side. And if you see anything with measures, please also move it to the other side. Then we have several dealing with species. Do we have good representative of marine values targets? So this could be species. Then we have, are the management plans adequate for the target species? I think we had a couple of more for the species or targets. Would you like to discuss this point? Or even if this is all clear and you agree, then just say so. Otherwise, I just ask randomly. Maybe Ida, do you think that that it's important to have target species labeled out in the management plans?
I'm sorry, what was the question? If target species are important to?
Yes, for the management plans. I think
it's really important to be aware how you word the targets and the objectives for the area, because that will have a big impact on management. So I do think wording of conservation objectives are really important.
Okay, very good.
I would agree in that it's important to have species to measure on and to use as sort of and like a measure of whether or not things have improved. But I also think it's important to not, I think what we need to do is move a little bit away from the single species, like the Habitats Directive and the Birds Directive, are very much single species management or single habitat management, and towards a more holistic approach to management.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can we somehow reflect this in the notes, or did you make a sticky note about this already? We can group it with the species, but saying not to focus only on species as in the annexes of Habitat Directive. Okay, you're writing it. Very good. Thank you, Marie-Louise.
I do not disagree with Marie-Louise and with Ida regarding the ecological functions and regarding the importance of conservation objectives. But I see a bit of danger that we spend too much time on this part, because, you know, we all know we need to get things improved out there, and we basically know what are the problems. And I believe we could start measures right away without putting any more work into, well, conservation objectives and how to assess ecological functions.
I agree with that too, I think, but at least what I keep sort of facing in Denmark is that, oh, but we shouldn't close the area completely for bottom trawling but it's only reefs that should be protected, but we still count the whole, like, I think that sort of thing. And I agree with you that we can spend a lot of time making conservation objectives where we should just make some protection measures. But sometimes because things are sort of attached to a single species, it sort of stumbles, it prevents progress in making.
I agree, Marie-Louise. I see so many examples of, a permitting procedure is going on for an MPA to build a wind farm, and they can't stop it. They can't say no because the objectives of the area aren't clear enough. Stuff like that. So I think objectives are really important. Although, yes, I would agree that measures are even more important, but they sort of follow on each other.
Thanks for clarifying. I see your points, and I do agree.
Okay. Do we have objectives listed somewhere in the sticky notes? We probably have. If not, please feel free to write it. Then some other parts are about the quantitative aims of MPA. I think this is what is meant with the objectives. Management plans, common terminology so that we can compare everything. Who wrote this?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, would you like to elaborate a little bit on it?
No, it's just, well, I know in Sweden we have been, well, even if we work with the same thing, we use a different vocabulary, and it hasn't been able to compare even between counties within Sweden, just because we don't have the same language, the same terminology for different things. So I suppose that could be the same thing for different countries as well.
Okay. Very good. Then I would say, due to time reasons, we would soon come to the end of the discussion of this point, at least. Is there any other point?
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, please.
About the conservation objectives and how important they are. I think they wouldn't come in at the assessment level, but in the guidelines, so that we talk about how to set the objectives in the guidelines. So I'm gonna put a post-it note up under guidelines on measure or objectives.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone want to come back to this? It seems not. Then I would guess people are okay with it. Okay, then I would start the next round of voting here. And for this, I would like to group you a little bit into the different sectors. So if you could think about if you are part of an NGO or research or national authority, so some kind of ministry, or from any other sector that doesn't fit into any of these three previous groups. So if you give me a moment, I will copy them to the chat. So this one is that I just posted is the one for the NGOs. Then the next one will be for research. Maybe let me write it here so that people don't get super confused. Okay, then the next one is for national authority. And I'm sorry I couldn't put now all of your suggestions. It's just to, as I said, nothing is decided by this discussion. It's just to get a little bit of an overview of your views and opinions. And the last link is for other sectors.
Could you repeat which link is for which? Because some of them doesn't.
So the lowest one is for other sectors. Second lowest that says NA is national authorities, so ministries. One above for research, and the first one there I hadn't written, it's NGOs. And when you go to the link, you should see our question, which we are working on right now, and it should state then NGO question 1 or research question 1. You all have the same question, which is what are the necessary elements of management to be covered by management effectiveness assessment of MPA? And you can choose up to 5 options. And yeah, if we didn't have the time to discuss an option now, fear not, it's all on the Miro board, so it's not lost, and the management team will discuss any suggestions still for the project.
It seems like it only works if you do choose 5 options.
Aha.
So it's
okay.
not possible to choose only 3, for instance.
Okay, then yes, then you might have to choose 5, which is a bit much, but we should still get the ranking which one is the most often chosen. And if you choose it as 1 or number 5, it should make a difference in the outcome. Okay. So from what I see, measures from NGO and research background voted the most often option, or the most important, and then objectives of area is the most important by national authority. And from other sectors, we have also measures, very good. Would the one that voted as other sectors maybe say from which sector exactly are you, or which organization?
That seems to be me then. So I'm a consultant, and I feel myself somewhere in between research and administration, actually, because I mainly work for the Federal Agency for Nature Conservation as a consultant.
Okay. Thank you. I will leave the voting still a little bit open in case some haven't done this yet. So I'm very sorry with the technical issues we had in the beginning that I had to speed up discussion so much, and it's lunchtime already, so you are welcome to go for lunch or stay here to discuss the last 2 questions of management effectiveness. It's of course your choice. Yes, there's the announcement. But I'm of course happy to stay here with you and have still at least a little bit of a quick discussion with you, if you're also willing to stay during lunch still for 10-15 minutes. Okay, so if you leave, then thank you so much. The others stay and work a bit more. And we will continue to work on the Miro board. So if you go to the right side, from question 1, you will see question 2 appearing on the board. And the question is, who should carry out management effectiveness assessment for MPAs? And here we have some suggestions, some ideas already on the board. Should it be regional level, national authority? Should it be an individual MPA manager, or even some combination, so the MPA manager together with the national authority? Or can you think of any other entity that should do this management assessment. Do you have any immediate thoughts? Is anything missing? Would you like to add anything?
I think this question is also going to be very nationally dependent because, for instance, in Denmark, we only have the national authorities. There's no individual MPA managers. There's someone who manages like a bunch of MPAs. So I mean, I understand that that's not the best system everywhere. I'm not even sure it's the best system at all. But I'm just saying that I don't know how much this is changeable.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Would you then like to write in under national authority the two other sections? There are advantages and disadvantages. Would you like to write then that national authority is the only way to go in Sweden?
Denmark.
Denmark. Sorry. What am I saying? Must be my empty stomach. Okay. Do we have other ideas about any of the suggested options, or is there any option you feel is missing and you would like to add to the ideas section of who should be doing the management effectiveness assessment?
Just a comment. I think it's very important that the one who does the assessment knows the individual MPA very well and the problems that are there, which would be an advantage for, say, the authority responsible for the management or for the individual manager. And on the other hand, of course, I would wish to have someone doing the assessment who is not directly involved and maybe has a neutral position. That's right. But that person might not have all the important insights to do a good assessment. So I think that's a really tricky issue.
Yes. Would this be maybe reflected if we add in the ideas section like neutral outsider for this, and then as the other option like someone who is expert on this MPA to cover both aspects somehow, and then there can be advantages, disadvantages you just said basically be added under it. Yes, and I see Mike is typing. Okay, very good. Then we have someone added special ambassadors as another option. Could you explain this a little bit?
No, it's species ambassadors.
Species, sorry.
I have to explain that I'm working with an NGO and we're working with civil society and we're working with this system of representation of other species. And I think to bring in something new, it would be a possibility because this is also a possibility to connect citizens, normal citizens of the Baltic region with the sea via species representation. And this is more a democratic idea, not so much based on science or other kinds of procedures like management.
Okay. If you could or would like to add some of the advantages and disadvantages you see, that would be appreciated.
I liked Georg's idea. I just think it might work pretty well for MPAs close to the coast, but it might be more difficult for offshore MPAs where you actually do need some insight or expert knowledge to do such assessment.
Yes.
Of course, you need some knowledge, but the point is that if citizens acquire this knowledge, somebody has to help them, but this is something that brings people and the sea closer together. And the process of acquiring this knowledge that is necessary to assess is also something that is could be part of this process.
Okay. Then I see most of you are still busy typing.
Can I just come with a comment?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm Caroline from the Danish Ministry of Environment, and I guess you all know it, but just to be aware that when we have to choose the MPAs and stuff, there's a lot of other activities and a lot of other resources that we need to deal with, and at least in Denmark it's a compromise of where the fisheries and energy and using the resources, etc. We have to make all that agree, and it's a political decision. So it's just, I wish it would be more simple to get the best places, but it's just to be aware that we have to compromise sometimes with other sections, and sometimes they have a political more heavy weight or more priority. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yes, thank you. Do you have something like this already reflected in a note somewhere? That would be very helpful. I see some people are still busy typing. But okay, so at the moment for the ideas of who should carry out management effectiveness, we have regional level, species ambassador, national authority, and a really tiny system of combination of national, regional, and species habitats expert doing the assessment. Who wrote this one?
I needed to find the microphone. Yes, it was me.
Very good. Would you like to elaborate a little bit?
Well, I think that there must be some knowledge on each of those to get the right, to get the whole right. But I guess it is, you must use quite a lot experts for species and researchers to get those that facts that then you can use that can be used by the regional and national authorities together, I guess.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else who would like to add? I still see people busy typing, so maybe I give you a minute. What do you think regional level assessment would have? Would that have advantages, disadvantages you would like? Do you have an immediate feeling for this? I have the impression we mostly talked about national and direct MPA managers. Anything about the regional level you would like to point out?
I do believe that we need assessments at different levels. And for example, we need them at the level of individual MPA management in order to decide what to improve for the individual MPAs. And we also need them on a regional scale to see where, for instance, HELCOM could come into place and assist with certain problems, or push member states to work on certain issues. And I also believe that many of the things we discussed before would apply also to the regional level. Like, for instance, it would be good to have a neutral person there to do the assessment, but then again, this neutral person might not know enough regarding the individual MPAs.
Okay. Very good. If you would like to add any of this into the advantage, disadvantage section, that would be very appreciated. Okay. Does anyone still want to raise any more ideas of who should carry out this assessment, or do you feel we have gotten there already? Because I see people straying to the last question already, so maybe I bring your attention back to the question 2 and we have a little vote instead on the different options. So NGO question 2, okay, there was a typo, so it's now reading something different, but I think you can see this is the first part for question 2 now, and it's for the NGO people in the chat. And the same goes for research, question 2. And the national authority. And from other sectors. And then I would like you to go to the Slido link and to provide your opinion for this. So this is allowing you to choose your most favorite option. I know, as we discussed some pros and cons, there's no perfect solution, it seems. They all come with advantages and disadvantages and are, of course, limited by resources. But maybe you could choose one option that you feel the most comfortable with. Did you find the links in the chat?
The link for the NGO doesn't seem to work.
It does work. You just have to copy it because it has
Okay.
the Q2 first, so you have to copy it without the Q2.
Yes, my apologies. That was my not spacing properly. But yes, if you could go there, the same spacing issue is for research. But I think for the national authority and for the other sector, you should be able to access the link directly. So if you go to the voting now, okay, we have national authority and MPA manager from both NGOs and the other sector, and species ambassador from the research sector, and neutral outsider from national authority. So we have a bit of different opinions, but that's okay. This is why we have the stakeholder workshop, to get the different opinions from you. So I would ask the ones that haven't voted yet to do it now. And the other ones, we can move to the right side of the Miro board to the last question, how should management effectiveness assessment results look like? So here we have again a couple of different options put on the Miro board. Would you like to see this as a ranking of MPAs or a scoring system? Do you prefer a detailed report? And I see some already write other ideas. This is very good. So please feel free to add your ideas, or the ideas that you see already on the board. You can write advantages and disadvantages, of course. See the idea scored based on indicators. Who was writing this, and could you explain a little bit?
That was me. I don't know if it's that different because I don't know how the scores would be based in the first one, but sort of to have indicators so that you have a system that allows you to say, okay, so it's what's the reason why it comes out the way it comes, so you know how to act from here on.
Okay, good. I think this would be quite similar to the option scores for each MPA. So yes, okay, so you're moving already there. Very good. Then I see a note where I have to zoom in now quite a lot because it's a little bit small. So it's scores for each of the items assessed. So species, habitats, or pressures, or measures, or effectiveness. So who wrote this, and would you agree this also goes maybe to this section scores for each MPA?
I wrote this, and I do think it is a difference, because scores for each MPA, I would think that each MPA gets one score. And my idea here was that we should be able to see whether the problem is in species or habitats not being improved, or certain activities not being addressed, or that simply, well, the measures are there but they are not implemented, or they do not work, because then we know what we need to improve in the next management cycle. So yes, it is broad scores, but it is a bit on another level, I'd say.
Okay, so it's not one unified score, but more separate scoring system.
I've moved mine into yours now because I think that's exactly what you like. If you just get one overall score for the MPA, you don't really have anywhere to go with your management. You need to have it more detailed than that.
Okay, then we can clarify maybe the second note here, that this would read one overall score. And then the other section is then the several score system, basically. Okay, and then someone was a fan of the detailed report. Who was that? Or at least wrote some advantages there?
Yes, it's me again, but I am keen on those sometimes when you need more information for changes of management methods or some other changes, but otherwise I am also quite keen on those MPA targets.
Yes.
So that's why I wrote that.
Okay, very good. Thank you for explaining a bit. Then I see some tiny note still at the end. Is this MPA an inspiring community of humans and more than humans? There I'm a bit wondering, like, I think this can be a point, but you want this to be one part of this, like, assessment, okay? Or would you like to explain a bit? Who wrote this sticky note at the very far right end that reads, is this MPA an inspiring community of humans more than humans?
Sorry, I'm the heretic here. I'm always coming with strange proposals. Yeah, I'm asking myself. I mean, an ecosystem is something very special, and I do see the need to compare, but I think if we want to find out if this is a successful example for something, for a collaboration of humans with their ecosystem and more than humans, then maybe it makes sense to find out if something special is going on, which can be, in a way, maybe it is also this special report, but not something that is based on comparing everything, because sometimes something happens that cannot be compared. That's all I would like to say.
Okay. Thank you. And like no comments are weird comments or unwanted. We want all your input here. So it's very good that you write and say these things. The only thing I wonder is we're asking how the result should look like. Could this be part of the result? I'm just wondering if we say, for example, a ranking or some scores. So could this be some like additional supplementary information, maybe something like this, or?
Yeah, it's another. Maybe it has to be some kind of measure which is unique in a way. I don't know if it's a charming MPA or not. I don't know.
Yes, it's tricky how to include this. And there, I would see some challenge how to incorporate that into whatever the result will be, and to have it for all the MPAs in the Baltic Sea, because they are all, of course, very, very different and very specific in a way. But we will keep it here as a note section in any case, to see if we can do something more than just pure numbers, as far as I understand your point.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other note there is key issues not properly addressed, e.g. activities. Was this from Michael Kramer? At least I see your error hovering over this note, or were you just reading it?
Yes, that was from me.
Okay. Would you like to explain a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's something I would like to have in addition to, well, whether we go to scores or detailed report, I would like to have a section pointing out the key issues for each MPA where it is not effective, or in which aspects it is not effective, because then HELCOM could decide how, well, if there are common issues across all MPAs, HELCOM could decide how to assist there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Very good. And it's almost past, so I don't want to keep you much longer. I would say we do now the last voting round, if that's okay for everyone, or is there something important that you would still like to raise here? Otherwise, I would say I would start posting the links again. So this is now for question 3. The NGO link is out. Then for research sector, next comes the national TV. And then the final one For the other sector, okay, and then I would like to ask you to vote now for the third question. How should management effectiveness assessment results look like? You can vote for one option. And I try to incorporate what we had in this discussion now added to the board. So if you're still on the Miro board, please go back to our session chat and pick one of the links depending on your sector. Okay, so for NGOs, we have scores for several parts of NPA. For national authority, we have the same answer. For other sectors, we are a bit split here between a detailed report and scores for several MPAs. Marie-Louise, did you try to say something?
No, sorry, I had an issue with sound.
Okay, no problems. Seems technical issues are a bit of a good friend of this session, but
I know.
Yeah, we solved it in the end, at least. And okay, I think with this, I would like to say thank you very much, especially for your input, of course, and also for your patience and for staying extra during this lunch hour still. It's very appreciated that you still wanted to discuss, and I'm sorry I had to cut discussions so short. And we couldn't make a proper introduction round and many other things that were planned, but I hope we had a bit of input. And I hope you still found the discussions interesting. And as I said, even if we didn't discuss certain parts, it's good for us to have them on the Miro board and in the Slido voting, and we will take up this all for the project. And I hope to see you all in the plenary session, where we can also see what the physical session discussions had for results. So with this, I would like to say thank you and hope to see you soon, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.